Streets and Scholars, Alex Alonso, NFG, here to bring you guys another banger. And I'm with the Eastside General. What's going on with it, man?
Man, what's cracking with it, Alex? How your day going?
Oh, everything's going good, man. Just heard a little bit of bad news about an Eastside General that predates you by about a decade, maybe. You want to speak on him real quick?
Oh man, that was the Eastside General. You know what I mean? The original. You know what I mean? And that's OG Stanley Pitts, man. Stanley Pitts is legendary. No doubt about it. In anyone's handbook, if you go back and ask anybody from the beginning of Piru, homie, they're gonna tell you that Stanley Pitts was a staple. Off the East Side, man. That really paved the way for every single person over there. A lot of Crips and other dudes from, have told me stories about Stanley, have told me, how much, he was respected back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Fortunately, though, Alex, as me being a young cat on the East Side, I was raised up under him, few generations, but he was there and I was there. So when I was at the park, man, Lueders Park hanging out, whether we shooting dice or going swimming or whatever it is, I've had Stanley Pitts, lace my boots on plenty of situations, homie. And one thing I can say about him, for me, he never told me nothing wrong. He used to come up to my barbershop, sit down with him, chill, just chop it up with me. But he was spitting knowledge sometimes when I didn't even know that's what he was doing. And it was a pleasure, homie. And a lot of dudes don't know that when you talk about Stanley Pitts, bro, you talk about going back to when Piru started. You know what I mean? You talk about when you go back to the Puttins and you go back to the Tams and you go back to all them, the Marcus Nuns and, China Dog, when you go back to them names, bro, they can't leave out Stanley Pitts. You know what I mean? Definitely, like I say, man, the general on the East Side. Definitely was a pleasure growing up under him, homie, knowing him personally. I had just talked to him on the phone, about a month or two ago. He was telling me about his health, and when I told him, I was sorry to hear that, Alex, he said right there and said, hey, man, it is what it is, so, he felt like that about it. I had just had to, smile a little that, hey, he going out all the way. Like, it is what it is, homie, and he's definitely like, the big homie that I appreciate, getting to know, getting to learn from, and for those who don't know, if you don't know who Stanley Pitts is and you off the East Side, then I don't really think you off the East Side. You feel me, Alex? You can't be from Piru, homie, if you don't know who Stanley Pitts is. And I don't care what Piru that is, so rest in peace, homie. We definitely missing the general, a legendary homie, my condolences to his family, his kids, man, and to all the Pirus, homie. He was one of the realest that ever did it for us. So, rest in peace, Stanley Pitts.
And there's this book written by A.C. Moses, a.k.a. Baba Louie. It's called The Starting Lineup. And Stanley Pitts is mentioned in this book numerous times because, as you said, he was known on the East Side, but even on the West Side, his name was ringing on the West Side as well with all the Pirus over there. So if anyone's interested in this history of the Pirus, The Starting Lineup by King Baba Louie, you can hit up streetgangs.com. I got a bunch of these books there. And, you get a little bit of history. And he was born, he was 63 years old. So, he's got over a decade on us. So that means, FG, when you was about 12 years old, riding your bike around the neighborhood, Stanley Pitts was already 21, 22 years old, 23 years old at the time. Do you remember those times?
No, well, not at that young age, I don't, but when I came around to a little older, maybe 14, and then, like you say, you start going up to the park and you start doing things. When you see Stan back then, man, he was just a legendary figure. You didn't just walk up to him and run up to him and, talk to him back then. It took a time for me to, grow in status, for me to, like I say, build my relationship with him. But that's just how it was on the East Side. It was, in a lot of neighborhoods, it's definitely a pecking order, and he definitely was one of them dudes who, like I say, when your big homies look up to this dude, then he's somebody. You know what I mean? So, like I say, I've come up through the ranks where he gravitated to me, and had nothing but love for me. You know what I mean? And so watching these dudes and see how they move, I was in awe of when I first met these dudes, and but at the same time, man, they these dudes had hearts, homie. They didn't, even though they did all the shit they did. Like I said, I heard, different podcasts since he's passed away, speak on him, from both sides, the red side and the blue side. But at the same time, if you knew him personally, homie, if he had love for you, homie, it was he was gonna show it. Whether he was gonna buy you a brew, little homie, you want a brew, or little homie, you good, or you know what I mean, the things of that nature. You knew if he fucked with you or not, and when he fucked with you, it made 30 other motherfuckers fuck with you, Alex. That was the thing about coming up to the hood. Stan probably, anointed me when I didn't even know I was being anointed. You know what I mean? Because when Stan's, hey F, give me a ride to the store, but he really jumping in the car with you to let people know that he fuck with you. That shit carries weight. That carries weight, homie. When them killers and gorillas be like, oh, if Stan fuck with him, then he must be all right. And people don't know growing up in those situations. That's why I say he was lacing my boots when I didn't know I was getting laced. He was protecting me when I didn't know I was being protected. Things of that nature. So, like I say, man, and then as we got older and, he already knew I had nothing but love and respect for him, which a whole lot of other people did. But, I'm a miss the OG, man, the triple OG. I'm a miss him, Alex.
Well, other than this book that AC Baba Louie has mentioned him, he's also mentioned in your paperwork when you got caught in the feds. It's like a whole little paragraph
Yeah,
about
no doubt,
Stanley
no
Pitts.
doubt, no doubt. Yeah, yeah. Hey man, you know how it go. When people get to giving up information on the east side, homie. I mean, shit. I guess they wasn't exempt to leave him out too, because they sure was trying to tell on what he was doing. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, Stan was a beast. Especially even like I say, even before. I was coming around. He put the staple on it, man. He made it to where we can do what we did, represent what we represent. A lot of these youngsters will be quick to say, how much work they put in and what they did, but they don't take into consideration, Alex. They did it at a time when being a blood or being a Piru is at an all-time high. Stan them did it, homie, when Tookie and them was around, when Raymond Washington and them was around, pressing lines on dudes, and you know what I mean. When the Compton Crips, was at an all-time high. These dudes did it then. And a whole lot of dudes wouldn't have been able to stand in the fire like they did back then, Alex, in order to make it what it is today.
Definitely, man. I met Stanley Pitts in 2017 when I interviewed Baba Louie. You can go tap in with Street TV. I got that Baba Louie interview, and Baba Louie and Stanley Pitts was hanging out. They was pretty tight as older friends. These guys is in their early 60s, and they was hanging out. So I had a chance to meet him with Baba Louie. I never got a chance to interview him. I do remember me, Baba Louie, and Stanley Pitts talked about doing an interview after I interviewed Baba Louie, but it never happened. And hey, it is what it is, man. It's unfortunate. I don't think Stanley Pitts ever really sat down with anybody, huh?
Right. No, I had talked to him about it a little bit. I was just asking him what was his feelings about it. You know what I mean? And he just more or less like, hey man, do your thing, or people do their thing. You know what I mean? But he was gonna keep it. What you know about him is what you know about him. You know what I mean? He done had nothing to explain or nothing to, exploit or nothing like that. But when I sit down and used to ask him personal shit. Oh, he'll run it down to me. You know what I mean? He done ran down stories that, you know what I mean? Like I said, I won't repeat, but he done ran down stories, man. And he had confidence in himself. He know what he did. He know his legendary status. You know what I mean? And that's just how it was. When I sit down with OG Bam from Front Hood Compton Crib, Bam told me about how much of a beast he was. And, they went to junior high school together. And Bam told me that he was one of the only two Bloods that went to Willowbrook Junior High School and back in the day, and he held his own, and everybody else got ran. All the other Bloods got ran up out of there, Stan, and it was one other homie. They held their own, man. So, like I said, I've heard props from every side. I've even heard, like I said, I heard the stories for them. Wish I could have sit down and got a one-on-one interview with him, but I respected how he was, man. He was just gonna be remembered for who he is and how he did it.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'm sure that's going to be a big funeral for Stanley Pitts, because these types of guys people always come out. They come out the woodworks to pay their
I mean, you
respects.
almost got two on this one. A lot of other ones, you know what I mean. But this one for sure, You know, if you ever, threw up a P, if you ever represented the P, if you ever got, Piru or blood tatted on you, homie, and it's even gonna be Crips there. That's how much love and respect the dude, brought to the table when it comes to this thing. So like I say, like always sending my condolences to his family, and his kids and the whole Piru Nation, man.
Did Stanley Pitts ever have a nickname? Because he's always just referred to by Stanley Pitts.
Man, I've been calling him Stanley Pitts the whole name since I was, like I say, 12 or something, man. I never heard if he did, I didn't know it. He been Stanley Pitts, man, since forever, and then that's how I referred to him. That's how I heard everybody else referred to him. You got to be G, man, that don't even need a nickname. You know what I mean? That's just who he is. You know what I mean? But yeah, I never knew. If he did, I didn't know it.
Yeah, man, we're losing a lot, man. Over here on my side of town, we lost an OG named Westside Tone. He'd been around since almost from the beginning of on this side of town.
Mm-hmm.
And man, hey, when we see so many people that we're losing, that means we getting old, FG.
No doubt, Alex, and it's moving fast, dog. It's moving fast, and I didn't realize it'd be that move this fast, I could still easily recall being 15, 16 years old, man, driving around in my, car through the hood, chilling, young cat. You think you got the whole rest of your life ahead of you. I mean, in actuality, you do, but I don't think nobody realizes how fast it actually it goes, man. It's moving too fast. Not to mention, man, we losing a lot of homies younger than we did with the older generation. So man, so this health is wealth at this moment, and just trying to, stay healthy, man, and be here for your loved ones, bro.
Definitely, man. Rest in peace to Stanley Pitts, to my homeboy Westside
Westside
Tone.
Tone.
And let's get into this first topic that I wanted to talk to you about, because we talked about this the whole Capitol riots, January 6th Capitol riots. We
Mm-hmm.
talked about this a few times, but if the listeners tap into episode 42, FG and myself spoke about Stewart Rhodes, and we had spoke about him after he had just got convicted for seditious conspiracy. We didn't know what the heck that seditious,
Right. No doubt.
and this was a charge that the government doesn't often use, but they found him guilty, and we talked about it on episode 42. So go tap in on episode 42. I said he was probably going to get that 120 months. You said they might give him that dub, and they ended up giving Stewart Rhodes the biggest sentence of any of the Capitol rioters, 18 years, man. I guess, hey, it is what it is, right? 18 years.
Well, you know what, man? They figured that he was the leader. You know what I mean? A lot of these dudes don't understand that when you get when you get to court, man, they do give people the leadership role. They do take that into consideration. People who haven't been, like I say, under the microscope of the state courts or the federal courts don't realize how aware and competent these people are, Alex. You know what I mean? So they probably feel like they say once, everybody told that he was the leader, he was the guy, they were definitely going to make an example of him. They came out with a law that they haven't used in 100 years for this guy. That meant something. That told me something. And I didn't think that I felt like they could give him that amount of time. I didn't think they really would. But they stick to their guns, man, and shit. We gonna make it. We gonna let these leaders know, to knock it off.
Yeah, man. We also talked about Guy Reffitt, who got that 87 months, which is a little over 7 years. And at that time, when he got sentenced, that was the longest sentence for any of these Capitol rioters. Most of them were taking plea deals. Most of them took probation. If they went to prison, they was getting like 2 and 3 years. But it appears that everyone who's going to trial, they're getting serious sentences, and they're not playing with these Capitol rioters, man.
Well, no doubt. When Guy Redford got that 7 years, though, we kind of thought that was a little nice little chip off for him, But damn, they didn't quadruple that damn near with with Rhodes here, man. But at the same time, Alex, I still say that was a bold move that they did. It was a disrespectful move for this country. Not pointing to the right and wrong direction. I'm just saying, man, to run up in the Capitol, do what they did, scale the side of buildings. Some people had weapons. I mean, that was big, bro. And at the end of the day, man, I figured that they was gonna chip somebody off. The followers, like it usually happen in a lot of big cases. The followers gonna get a couple little years of probation or this or that, but they was giving up information. All the information led back to Stewart Rhodes, and he some of that time he got is for the shit they did, but he was the leader, man. So they knocked him off.
Yeah, I got this clip. Let me play from CBS News.
The founder of the Oath Keepers militia group is headed to prison for more than 18 years. That is the most of any January 6th defendant so far. Stewart Rhodes is his name. He was convicted of seditious, conspiracy, and other charges, and he told the judge when given the opportunity to speak yesterday, quote, "My only crime is opposing those who are destroying our country," close quote. Scott McFarland is at the district courthouse in Washington with the response from the judge in this case, who noted that Rhodes showed no remorse and is, in his opinion, an ongoing threat to the fabric of the country. Scott, good morning.
Yeah, Tony, the judge called Rhodes a threat to democracy. And then in a moment that seemed to freeze and silence the courtroom, he said there's fear of violence after the next election.
More than 1,000 people have been charged for the Capitol insurrection. But former military service member, Yale Law School grad, and founder of the far-right Oath Keepers, Stewart Rhodes, has now been handed the toughest sentence to date. He was convicted at trial of conspiring to block the peaceful transfer of power through force and of planning in advance. Prosecutors cited these remarks from 2020.
"We have men already stationed outside D.C. as a nuclear option in case they attempt to remove the president illegally. We will step in and stop it. The fight's coming."
Rhodes will remain behind bars until nearly 2040 after the judge allowed a sentencing enhancement for terrorism.
It's not only the longest sentence by a good amount, but it was backed up by the court saying, "You, sir, present a threat to the fabric of democracy."
Prosecutors argued Rhodes and his co-conspirators raised money, readied military gear, even staged guns nearby in Virginia in case then-President Trump invoked the Insurrection Act, which Rhodes urged in an open letter to Trump before January 6th. Rhodes was unapologetic in court, calling himself a political prisoner and saying the Oath Keepers were quiet professionals unfairly targeted for supporting Donald Trump. His defense attorneys say Rhodes will appeal.
There's no way that he was the leader or the director of what happened on January 6th. He was just a convenient target.
But federal judge Amit Mehta made his view clear, calling Rhodes a danger to U.S. democracy, and added, "We all now hold our collective breaths with an election approaching. Will we have another January 6th? That remains to be seen."
All right, man. The dude said on his own video, FG, "We will step in and stop it," which pretty much means that he was down for all of this from the very beginning.
No doubt. You know what I mean? He and like you seen the video, he said in 2020, he if he have to, they got people stationed, and they'll step in and stop it. So that right there shows you what was on his mind. Showed what the attorney talked about. He was just a convenient target. No, he wasn't. He was the target. He made himself the target. He's been that. Didn't know he was a Yale a law graduate. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, he knew better. You just wasn't an ignorant country boy who just, started doing some shit. No, bro, you was educated. You know what I mean? Through the fabric of one of our best schools in this country. And that's what you do. That's how they looking at it, So, yeah, they going to give him 18 years and they going to stand on it. He going to do it unless he can't make it. How old is he at this time? He looked like he about 50, 54, 55 or something.
Yeah. He's also looking at, they actually added an enhancement, which means they can keep him past maybe past that 18 years on top of the seditious conspiracy. But I just wanted everybody to know what this seditious conspiracy means, because it hasn't been used often, but it's been being used a lot in this case, but it's basically what they were trying to do in terms of stopping the transfer of power after Trump lost and Biden won, to hinder or delay the execution of any law of the United States by force, to seize, take, possess any property of the United States contrary to the authority thereof. They shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 20 years or both. So this is one step below what is it on treason. It's one step below treason. It's not quite treason, but this gets almost up there with treason. So this is a serious offense, and I'm actually glad that this guy got what he got.
No doubt. I mean, I figured they would, but you got to realize that he's been pushing his bullshit for a long time, and like I say, what people don't know who haven't been under the microscope of the state courts or the federal courts, Alex, is these people know more than you think they know. You know what I mean? Some people sit here and sometimes we get the information and we kind of say, well, no, he might could have fought that. He might have could have beat that. We don't have all the intel that these people knew a whole lot more. So they done went through every video he done did. They done went through meetings that people have been at. They done got statements from people who've been around him, and they got their man. They know who they got. They gave him 18, and I don't think they gonna back down from it at all. Like I say, what he did to them was very disrespectful to this country. So they gonna make him walk that down.
So what is a guy like this now expected to go through now? He got his 18 years. Is he going to get sent to whatchamacallit, like a reception now, and then they're going to end up transferring him to a medium?
Is he in custody already?
I'm not sure if he was already. No, I think he was out on bail when he went on trial. So I believe he was taken into custody after the guilty verdicts. So he's been in custody since the guilty verdicts.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, they're gonna definitely send him to a reception type facility. Then they probably send him to a medium somewhere. He's not going to go to a lower level facility, with that kind of time and this kind of background behind him as far as what he did. So, when he get to the yard, though, don't get me wrong, it's gonna be a situation with the whites. He they property, he they business, you know what I mean? And they gonna deal with it accordingly. If he goes somewhere, he may be honest with you, he may be a hero when he hit the yard, So they may look out for him. You treat him like a king, you never know. But at the same time, that shit gonna wear off once he start doing that 18 start to wear on his ass, you know what I mean? So but he may not have a problem at all, when he get to prison.
Yeah, he's 57 years old, so this is a significant sentence for a guy pushing 60.
No doubt, this could be a death sentence. He could. He not guaranteed to walk out that thing, Alex. You know what I mean? So, I'm sure that's on his mind. But at the same time, like I said, they wanted to make example, and they will. And they did. So.
Well, whenever the next Republican president is elected, whether that's going to be this next term in 2024 or wait another 4 years in 2028, I believe whoever the president is going to be is going to release all these guys from custody anyways, and do what is it called that they do?
Pardon or not pardon, but
Clemency
commute. Clemency or commute. I don't, Alex. I don't think they're gonna do that. I mean, what that says about you as a politician, you know what I mean? I believe that anybody go in and give these guys a lesser sentence or anything like that, you basically saying, you shitting on the Capitol too, and I don't believe nobody career wise, not meaning that they don't feel it on the inside, but it would damn near be career suicide to do this, just to be honest with you. It definitely wouldn't be on the first term, situation. But I mean, to me, it seemed like it'd be damn near career suicide to let these dudes out, when they did this to the Capitol. They didn't do this to an agency or a corporation. They did this to the U.S. Capitol. So I don't believe nobody gonna jump out there like that, to be honest with you. That's just my opinion, though.
If Trump wins the election, and this will be his last term since he already did a term, he'll be done in 2028. By that time, these guys would have already served 4 or 5 years in prison. I see Trump pardoning all of these guys at the end of his last term if he wins the presidency. You think Trump really cares what people think about him after that?
Not Trump, anybody but not Trump. Can Trump even? I thought Trump just got convicted of something. He can still
Well, he's indicted. He's not convicted of any.
you know.
No, he got found guilty of a civil case.
Okay.
But he's under a federal indictment right now, a
Right.
felony. But that we don't know what's going to happen with that.
No doubt, but I don't know if they gonna back him, give him that kind of backing, and put that on the line, unless they put a VP in there that they feel super confident with to say, listen, man, we gonna let you get in, but we gonna put this VP behind you in case something happened. With this VP right here can step right in and take over. If Trump win, of course, I'm sure he'll let these guys out in 4 or 5 years, but anybody else, no.
All right, well, we'll see. Yeah, because there's quite a few Republicans that were anti-Trump and anti-January 6th, but there's quite a few of them that was kind of Trump didn't do anything wrong, so he had some defenders there in the Congress and in the Senate, but I don't think any of these guys is got stretched out like Guy Reffitt, Stewart Rhodes, and then we got Enrico Tarrio. He's going to get sentenced in August.
Is that the Proud Boys guy?
Yeah, that's the Proud Boys
that's
guy.
The Proud Boy, yeah.
They're going to give all those Proud Boys something similar to what they just gave Stewart Rhodes, but I don't think I'd be surprised if they didn't get pardoned by some future president, whether it's Trump or somebody else. I mean, hey, I was surprised that Trump pardoned Harry O, and got him out of prison.
No doubt. I wasn't, Trump a player, man. You know what I mean? He's a player, and the politics, is just that, politics, So sometimes, it ain't about this or that. Sometimes, man, like you say, man, if he felt Harry O can go out there and, be some influence towards his need, then, he might have did that, but hey, man, these dudes are politicians, man. They got their reasons for doing shit.
For sure. All right, man. Another story that we talked about on a previous episode of Streets and Scholars was the shooting, the killing of a councilwoman down in New Jersey named Eunice Dwumfour, 30-year-old sister, young sister getting involved into politics. Car pulled up on the side of her back in on February 1st. And shot her 13 times. And we talked about this on episode 51. And it just seemed like a mystery, but they just recently arrested a dude named Rashid Bynum down in Virginia, man. He's awaiting extradition back to New Jersey.
Yeah, man, this one right here, man, I'm puzzled on this one, Alex. You know what I mean? Because this is someone she knew from previous church situation. She did have this guy number in his phone. They did track this guy's phone from Virginia to her back to Virginia, I believe, and like I say, man, they got so much technology, man. These people out here be like, why people don't do this? And man, look at the stuff you see how they catching people nowadays. But this one right here, man, I'm skeptical to say what I really think, just based on, man, because I damn near sound like some love affair type shit, man. What kind of disagreement that you can get into with a woman, man, and you go shoot her 13 times, bro. Drive from Virginia to New Jersey, knock her down and drive back. Is this one a little fishy to me? You know what I mean? I don't know what the motive was. Did you hear anything about a motive?
Man, they don't even explain how he was on the radar. They just say that they tracked Rashid Bynum, 28 years old. She's 30, he's 28. So they're about the same age.
Right.
And the contact that she had in her phone of him, it wasn't under Rashid Bynum. It was under FCF, initials for the church. So I'm always skeptical when you have somebody in your phone and you don't have them under their name and you have them under some other code thing. And let me also add, she's married. Eunice.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Eunice is married. And she was the pastor to him back in 2018. So I guess they had some dealings. I believe they was involved, like you said some sort of affair. I'm going to say they was straight up fucking.
No, no doubt, no doubt. It's unfortunately, that our minds go that route, but at the same time, man, sometimes you have to call it like it is, you know what I mean? And like I say, I never want to look down on the sister. She was, a married woman, you know what I mean? She was into the church, a councilwoman at that, career woman at that, but at the same time, sometimes, man, I had to say what it is, man. Not just by looking at her, she might have, touched him in a certain kind of way, something special, and he couldn't let it go. But yeah, man, I think it was some romantic shit involved for him to do that like that. Just to be honest with you, I'm not sure, don't know, didn't read that. Just me personally thinking, man. I think she put them lips on him, man, and he went berserk or something. But the killer, shooter 13 times, man. That's unfortunately, man, that's wild, man. Unfortunately, that's wild, bro.
Yeah, they also tracked his rental car from Virginia to New Jersey back to Virginia, and they also tracked him through the phone. But none of these stories say why, in the first place, he was even under investigation. They don't say anything about why he's on the radar. So I think they're right. They're just waiting for it to go to trial. Let me play this short little clip from Fox 5. They got a few details of what was going on. Here it goes.
28-year-old Rashid Ali Bynum has been taken into custody and charged for the murder of the Sayreville councilwoman. 4 months ago, she was shot and killed outside her home in Middlesex County. And while the motive is still remaining unclear, officials say she and the suspect did know each other from church.
All right, Fox 5 Sharon Crowley joins us live from New Brunswick, where officials just held a news conference. Sharon, what do we know about the suspect?
Yeah, Steve, that news conference ending just a few minutes ago. Here's what we can tell you. The prosecutor here in New Brunswick holding a news conference saying that they have made an arrest of a Virginia man that they plan to extradite here to New Jersey for the murder of Eunice Dwumfour. Now, she was shot to death inside her car just a few feet away from her townhome a few months ago in Sayreville, New Jersey. And she was on the Sayreville Borough Council and also a part-time EMT and very active in her church. It's believed that she knew the suspect charged with her murder from church. 28-year-old Rashid Ali Bynum is from Portsmouth, Virginia, and he's been charged with first-degree murder and weapons charges. Investigators tracked his cell phone from the murder scene to Virginia and back on the day of the murder. He also matched the description given of the shooter by many witnesses who were in that townhome complex and saw him scale a wall and run off. Now, you're going to hear from the prosecutor and also from the family's lawyer. The family was here today.
Additional records corroborated Bynum's location on the day of the homicide. These records showed that Bynum's device traveling through Easy Pass at the same time as a white Hyundai bearing Virginia plates.
They are trying to also understand the relationship, how this person came to target Eunice, what was the rationale. I think one of you in the press conference asked the prosecutor what the motive was. Maybe they know, but certainly they haven't shared that. And that is something that is vexing the family as we speak right now.
So we yelled questions at investigators, but literally right after the news conference, they just walked away from the podium. They did not give us any information about a motive or more about how the suspect may have known the victim. Loud cars going by, excuse me. But what we do know from investigators is that the suspect's phone number was in her phone. So that really doesn't give us an indication as to how well they know each other. But we do know that church played a role in this.
All right, this lady can't even tell the story because of the cars in the background. But I'm gonna just say that they got involved in a relationship back in when they met, 2016 to 2018, when she was his pastor, and they may have maintained this relationship long distance. He probably used to drive up there, spend time with her, go back home. It's a 5-hour drive between the two towns. And then I think maybe she just wanted to cut it off because maybe she's feeling guilty. I don't know when she got married to this person, but I believe it definitely has to do with some sort of love affair that she probably wanted to cut off. And you know how some dudes be getting, man. They be like, nah, you ain't cutting nothing off. if I can't have you, nobody can have you. And he probably was one of those dudes. What do you think?
I mean, it's highly possible, man. And like they say, even the news people were saying, man, we don't even have a motive yet, So it's going to come out, Sometime it do, sometime it don't. Usually when it's involving black people, it's coming out. You know what I mean? But unfortunately, man, this woman lost her life. This kid could actually lose his, with the life sentence if he's found guilty, and some of this shit just ain't worth it, Alex.
Nah, for sure, especially over over a female, over some sex, over a moment of pleasure. That's really what it's all about. And I think because of they're withholding all this information about motive, this is what it's probably got to be. They just don't want to probably throw her through drag her through the mud and make the councilwoman look bad, look dumb. But it's all going to come out when dude goes to trial,
No
unless he
doubt.
just takes a deal. Unless he takes a deal.
Well,
But
they got a lot of information on him. If they get somebody to really ID him as far as what the witness described the shooter, they got other evidence as far as phone records, rental car records, they probably can go back and get more evidence based on, cell phone, building cameras that they probably, trying to get a hold of or already have. So you never know, bro. It's, they got overwhelming evidence, to knock him upside his head, so. But it's just a shame, man. Young black man, 28 years old, got the rest of his life ahead of him, and you get caught in these circumstances, it's just unfortunate.
hey, what do you take of him allegedly shooting her 13 times? I mean, you don't need to shoot someone 13 times to knock them off, but 13 times at close range, it seems very personal.
Well, I was gonna say the same thing. When you said about shooting a person that many times, it definitely don't take that. That's sometimes that's emotions involved in there. You know what I mean? Some of the extra bullets, describes emotion. So what were you so emotional about that you wanted to kill this lady? You know what I mean? I don't care if she swindled you out of some money. I don't care if she, if she didn't hurt your child or your mom or a family member or something like that. What makes you shoot her 13 times? That's emotions.
Yeah, and you would think, I've been through situations where I'm pissed, I'm mad, but 15, 20 minutes, maybe an hour later, I calm down and I come to my senses. But this dude was on a 5 hour, it says here, actually 6 hours, almost a 6 hour drive with that much emotion. Still, he still had it when he arrived in Jersey more than 5 hours later. Wouldn't you think a 5 hour drive may have calmed you down a little bit?
Shit, no doubt. 5 hour drive. I'd have been so tired out. Shit, man. But that's why I say that's where emotion comes in. If it wasn't a basic hit, like you wasn't hired to do it or nothing like that, man. That was emotions that you couldn't get over. It started before the 5 hour drive. It started weeks or months before that. That day you was fed up. And literally took it to a whole different situation, man. But you gotta pay the piper though, man. You gotta talk to them, you gotta see them people, you gotta go to trial, man. You gotta fight for your life. And sometimes I don't get that, how your life is not more important than hers, if she didn't do something, ultimately, sometimes you gotta choose you, man. You know what I mean? And it clearly that at 28 he wasn't thinking about that. So, I don't know, man.
Yeah, man. These young men need to be they need to be put up on game on how to deal with women. There's too many women out there. It ain't worth losing your freedom. It ain't worth a life sentence. There's not another human being on earth worth a life sentence. And if all this information is correct that's being presented, I find it very difficult for him to find a defense here. They got witnesses, they got his cell phone being tracked, they got his rental car being tracked back and forth. He's in her contacts, but don't you find it interesting that he's in her contacts under initials, FCF for the church, not his name.
No doubt. And there's people on here that may say that, we jumping to conclusions. No, we don't really know 100% what went on. But from being in this, seeing these situations so many times, man, you know what I mean? It smells like it's, a love affair going wrong. You know what I mean? And somebody said, could her husband be involved and hired this guy? I mean, it could be a million different situations on what really truly happened. But when you get to talking about, like you say, the dynamics of it, the same age, she was a pastor to him. She probably once, gave him helped him, mentally and things of that nature, get his mind right or get his spirit right or, get his soul right, and but like you say, she was in his phone under initials, this dude drove down there, shot her, 13 times when it could have just took two. A hit not gonna shoot you 13 times. Hit gonna get the job done. You know what I mean? Like I said, I believe his motions behind the extra 10, when you could have did it with 3. So that's just my personal opinion, but yeah, man, I believe it was something and it's going to come out, believe me, something's going to come out, if he did all that, he's wrote something down, he sent some previous texts, and they going to go back and dig all that shit up, man. And it's going, unfortunately for the husband, if that is the situation, the embarrassment that comes on the family or the kids and things of that nature is what I hate, about it. But just the nature of it, it's just what it is.
Yeah, man. She was an up and coming politician down there in Jersey, and I'd like to know when she got married. I'm not sure, but her relationship with Rashid Bynum goes back to 2016 to 2018 when she was a pastor. So we'll find it all out. And of course, the investigators and the police don't want to tell the media everything right now because they're building the case and they're about to probably take this brother to trial. So they're not letting their strategy all out the bag just yet. It'll all come out though in due time. And we'll come back on here on Streets and Scholars and we'll say we were right or we'll say we were wrong. Simple as that.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, no doubt. That's what we do. We're gonna talk our shit and give our opinion, and that's ours, But yeah.
Yeah, that's what we do on podcasts. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, man. We gotta talk. This is kind of a related story, man. But it's the other way around. This is where a woman loses her cool with a guy she was dating, Travis Rudolph. He's in trial right now for murder and attempted murder on 4 people that came to his door, that came knocking on at his house and tried to threaten him. And now he's on trial because the prosecutors don't believe it was a self-defense. They think he went a little over the top. But did you get a chance to tap in with this story? He was dating a girl named Dominique Jones, and Dominique Jones sent 4 guys over there to beat him up, basically.
Is this the NFL guy, ex-NFL guy?
Yeah, he has about a year or 2 years.
Well, I mean, he did make it to the league. I don't know if he didn't play too often, but this the same guy, right?
Yeah, he did. He actually made it to the league. He played 1 season, and then he played in Canada for a couple years too.
Okay. Well, this is the thing about it, man. She admitted, Alex, that she sent her brothers or cousins or somebody over to his house. And what she basically said, openly, is that she told them, or they saw the text or whatever, or got the phone call where she told them to go over there and shoot his shit up. These guys actually went over there. What happened when they got over there is a whole, I don't have all the details of that, but they went over there, Alex, some kind of altercation started and a man ended up dead. I don't see how this dude is in court right now, fighting for his life when, it's clear that these people came to start some shit with him, You got some details on it?
Yeah, well, I think one of the reasons why he's in court is kind of related to that. You remember that robbery we covered in the restaurant where dude went in there with the fake gun, and as he was walking out, the guy shot him like 8 or 9 times, but he shot him 4 times. And it seemed like after the 4th shot, it was a little overkill.
Right. I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
So they're kind of saying that's the same thing here with Travis Rudolph. Let me see here if I got a couple clips here. They're trying to say, because he pulled out an AR-15 and shot like 30 rounds. So the prosecutors were like, we're not so sure this is self-defense. But all right, let me cue this up. This is from WPBF News 25 in Florida. And bro actually had a really good career at FSU. He was a good receiver down there. But he didn't quite blow up in the NFL. But take a listen to this.
All right. Shots fired. It sounded like 10 gunshots. It's a guy out here saying that he's just been shot.
April 7th, 2021. 911 calls for help flood into dispatch around midnight.
Things escalated so quickly.
For the first time, Travis Rudolph talks about the night he says 4 men showed up at his front door.
I just heard a loud bang, as if like the police was at the door.
In exclusive video, we can now see everything playing out on security cameras.
This all happened within seconds, so my brother was the first one to get to the door, so I was worried about his safety as well.
Who is it? Travis at?
According to court records, Rudolph and his then-girlfriend, Dominique Jones, got in. According to court.
All right, real quick. You saw that first guy that came out of Travis' house?
Mm-hmm.
That's his brother. So it's Travis and his brother having to deal with these 4 dudes.
Okay.
Travis at?
According to court records, Rudolph and his then-girlfriend, Dominique Jones, got into a fight earlier that night.
Open this door, bro, because this got me. Dominique, stop.
Who are you calling it, bro?
Okay, this is really what this whole trial is about. It's about you saw her closed fist punching him?
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. She started closed fist punching him because he called her a B. That's really what it is. He called her a B, and she got to fighting. She got mad. She called her brothers, and that's why he's in court right now. But let me rewind this again so you could just hear this part again. I don't know if everyone caught that.
Got into a fight earlier that night.
Open this door, bro, because this got me. Dominique, stop.
Who are you calling it, bro?
Afterwards, she texted her brother, Keyshawn Jones. Evidence shows they both made threats towards Rudolph.
As soon as I came outside, Tyler, he sucker punched me to my left eye. It was Tyler and Sebastian. It was kind of trying to corner me in. And Tyler, he had pulled out his firearm. And during that time, Tyler pulled out his firearm. Sebastian was like, you messed with the wrong girl. You're going to die tonight. And then that's when I went back inside and grabbed my firearm.
The fight spilling out into the street. The video shows Rudolph then running off his property with an AR-15.
I had to do what I had to do, you know what I'm saying, to protect me and my family. My brother was on the ground getting jumped by 2 of those guys, getting kicked. So that's the reason why I went down the street. While they're all in their car, I see 2 firearms pointing at me and my brother. And I couldn't believe it. And it's just a split decision where I just felt like it's either me and my brother or these guys that's, you know what I'm saying, gonna get hurt.
Rudolph firing 39 rounds, the 4 men speeding off.
I know people at home are going to question, okay, he has an AR-15 and he fired 39 times. What's your explanation for that?
I can't even count how many times I shot, to be honest with you. I got fast reflexes, I play football. And on top of that, I felt like I had to keep shooting until the threat is no longer a threat anymore.
Did you realize you had shot somebody when that all happened?
No, I honestly didn't know I had shot anyone. And my heart sunk. I was just trying to get them away from me and my brother and killing us, really.
Sebastian Jean Jacques was shot and killed. Tyler Robinson was also shot but survived. Keyshawn Jones and Christopher Lowe were not hurt.
Would you do anything differently?
It was a matter of life or death at that moment that I had shot. And I'll do the exact same thing if it came down to it.
Hey, FG. Dude was well rehearsed for that interview.
Shit, was he? I was gonna say, man, they need to put him in a TV show. He got some nice acting skills. I ain't gonna say acting skills. He was well rehearsed, man. You know what I mean? He was well rehearsed.
Because normally you don't want your client doing interviews.
Talking to nobody. Yeah.
He obviously went through this story with his attorney.
No doubt.
He answered every question the way you want it answered. If you're a defense attorney having to defend him, he answered everything perfectly.
He did, bro. I ain't gonna bullshit you, man. The way he answered that, I want him to get off. You know what I mean? Because he was like, the problem he gonna have was when he fucking ran out the house with the heat. He still had an excuse for that they was kicking and beating my brother. You know what I mean? So that's the alibi for why he had his shit together. You know what I mean? So But at the end of the day, you know how I feel. You know, 4 motherfuckers come to my house, you know, want looking for some smoke, man, and you get it. You know, you shouldn't be in jail. You know what I mean? And then, like I say, this be the type of shit that, you know what I mean, I be wanting the female to feel some kind of like, you know, she gonna walk away scot-free, bro. You know, her family member did, you know, say if this dude did get, you know, convicted or not, you know, but you really got your peoples killed. And this is the shit, Alex, that I preach all the time, man. You know, these females always calling some motherfuckers to come a battle, and she didn't even get beat up or nothing. I could see if she would have got stomped out, kicked off. She didn't even get beat up. Out of her emotion, she called these dudes to come shoot. She should be motherfucking a part of this motherfucking case. You know what I mean? You know, and shit is crazy, man. That shit got to stop. And over the last 40 years, Alex, dudes been getting killed because they cousins, female cousins call them, they sister calling them, they auntie call them to come to a situation, man, it's not that serious. Somebody lose their life, somebody get a life sentence.
No, I think a lot of people that might think he went over the top is because of those 39 rounds he shot. But shoot, when you're in the middle of battle, when you're in the middle of conflict, you're not keeping track of how many rounds it is. You shooting until you feel comfortable not to shoot anymore.
No doubt, you know what I mean? And like I say, when we was coming out, we done had, you know, 50 round clips and stuff like that. So you know, by the time you look up, the gun empty, you know what I mean? So I understand how, you know, the adrenaline can keep you, you know, from keep you squeezing the trigger. But man, you know, it's just like I say, man, she started this shit on her own, you know, saying, come shoot this shit up, you know, then they threatened him, you know, you gonna die tonight, basically. Man, I don't believe this boy should be in court right now, man. I believe he should be somewhere minding his business at home, you know, with his feet kicked up, you know.
Well, I got a clip of the girl testifying in court. I think she did a terrible job. I'm gonna save that video for the last video. But before that, I want to play a little bit of something from where you can get to hear the prosecutor and what the prosecutors trying to do in this case. Let me cue this up real quick, and here it is.
That's right. Today, prosecutors show the jury some surveillance video that they say that shows that Travis Rudolph was the aggressor, that he was shooting at 4 men who came apparently to shoot up his house. Although one of those men testified today saying that just meant they were there for a fist fight, not murder. Prosecutors say Travis Rudolph was the aggressor the night in April 2021. 4 men showed up at his door, Rudolph shooting 39 rounds as they fled following a fight, showing jurors this surveillance video of bullets flying from Rudolph's semi-automatic rifle as he chased them down the street.
Murder begins when self-defense ends. Now, that was a simple sentence said many, many years ago, but that simple sentence perfectly encapsulates why this defendant right there, Travis Rudolph, is sitting in the chair that he's sitting in.
The 4 men arrived when Rudolph's girlfriend contacted them, claiming Rudolph had assaulted her after she found texts from other women on his phone, telling them to come shoot up the house. One of those men, the girlfriend's brother, testifying he was throwing punches at Rudolph during the fistfight, but insisting no one pulled a gun and all 4 ran and got into their car. But Rudolph's attorney insisting Rudolph was acting in self-defense.
Isn't that a fact that you guys immediately attacked him, never giving him a chance to do anything?
No.
Rudolph's attorneys say he never began shooting until 2 of the men in the car pointed guns at him through the windows, and he was in fear for his life.
They were vigilantes. They were 4 men who went there to retaliate and kill, just as they were ordered to do.
But Kashawn Jones saying he was in the front seat and did not see Sebastian Jean-Jacques lean out of the back seat and point a gun at Rudolph.
I'm telling you that I didn't see any guns pointed.
All right. He's lying because they took 2 straps. They took 2 straps over there, FG. And if four guys go over to beat up your sister's boyfriend and 2 of you guys got straps, it's most likely all 4 of y'all knew about those 2 straps.
Shit, no doubt. You know, no doubt about it, man. You know, but you know, this is what kills me, man. You know, these prosecutors, man. You know, this dude needs with his wig pushed back. You You need to cut the rest of that hair off and shit. You know, he just won't let it go. But at the same time, you know, this dude is, you know, itching to. You go to that same prosecutor house, 4 dudes with a gun, homie, he gonna do the same shit. You know what I mean? And it kills me how they get up there, you know, and want to prosecute a case, not because of they feel it's right or wrong, man, but just, you know, to pad they stats to, you know, for maybe they can go on and be something else bigger in their career. You know what I mean? And they knew they had 2 straps because they found 2 straps, you know. Dude knew to get down, you know, they wasn't expecting that outcome, which a whole lot of dudes don't when they go pull up looking for some smoke, you know what I mean? And then when they get it, like you say, you know, it's a whole different story. You know, it is what it is, bro. Y'all went over there looking for it and it just went the wrong way. And just say that, you know. So, but at the end of the day, man, like I said, I'm rooting for this kid, man. You know, I'm rooting for this Rudolph kid, man. You know, you don't go to a person's house with guns, you know, trying to smash a dudes. And it's, bro, you know, they got out on them and expected it's just going to be all fine and dandy. That ain't how it work all the time, Alex.
You heard that prosecutor say that murder begins after self-defense is over. So that means that they do believe that there's a level of self-defense that Travis Rudolph was exercising.
Right.
But at some point, it should have stopped. And I don't think you could expect, at what point? After he shot 15 rounds, 16, 17? Like, how is he supposed to know?
No doubt, you know, and like I say, you know, when we doing shows or we looking at comments or rereading, you know, comments, or I'm watching somebody podcast, you know, I'm the type of dude, I'm gonna learn from anything. And that quote gonna stick with me that he said, though, to be honest with you, Alex, you know, that self-defense, murder begins when self-defense. I'm gonna keep that one in my chamber, you know, just, you know, but come on, man, these dudes came over here with pistols and smashing dudes, man. I believe the jurors and everybody else have some, I mean, if it's any form of something else they can get this kid, manslaughter or anything like that, man. But I don't believe there's murder 1 or 2, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and it turned out that Travis Rudolph didn't do anything to this girl. He didn't assault her. He didn't beat her. He didn't slam her. He didn't do any of the things that she initially told her brothers that he did, and that's why they went there in the first place. So she lied. And then the guy showed up strapped. 2 guys were strapped. And I don't think they was expecting a former football player to pull out an AR-15 on their asses.
Yeah, but this the situation too, man. You know, of course, we going to point the finger at her. We going to say that she should have, you know, shouldn't have did that shit. That was some sucker shit she did. That was some punk shit she did. But at the end of the day, you know, what kind of dudes is y'all to just get a call? Look, if my sister come, which I don't have one, but if my sister call me and text me and say a dude hit her, I was over his house, and, you know, I'm going to get to the bottom. Well, hold on. Well, for one, I'm going to know my sister. You know what I mean? You've been knowing this lady for a long time. You know what I mean? I'm going to know what kind of type of person she is. If I even feel she the type of person that's always starting some shit, I'm going to ask her, well, what you do? You know what I mean? You know, and once you say, no, I fired on his ass. Okay, but what did he do? You know what I mean? No, he didn't do shit. But hold on, well, if he didn't do shit, or if I pull up on you, sis, where you at? I'm going to analyze your situation. I'm going to look at your face. I'm going to look at your neck. I'm going to see if you got bruises, and I'm going to get to the bottom before I go this hard. You know what I mean? You know, and then the third, Alex, I'm not going to knock on nobody's door and waiting for them to come outside. You know what I mean? I'm not going to knock on no dude, tell him to come outside, bruh, and we going to get down like that. You know, if I got to take a gun, I mean, it's a different situation. And I'm going to catch him at a different time or something like that. I'm not going to go knock on a man's door, give him all the situation in the world. That ain't going to come out right, dog. You know what I mean?
No doubt. You just can't, even your own sister, you just can't believe what your own sister's going to say without doing your due diligence, without investigating, without questioning her, you know, without getting all the details. It just seems like this chick just texted these dudes, her 2 brothers and these dudes, and they just said, all right, we're on our way.
We're on our way. Crash test dummies and shit. Yeah.
All right. I want to play this last video of the actual girl testifying, Dominique Jones. This is a picture of her. This is a picture of her on the stand right here, and she's really. I don't even know how to say it. I just want to say she's a POS, man, because I hate women like this, man. I truly. despise women like this, because a lot of women like this are the reason why a lot of us brothers is dead. You know, a lot of
real shit. Hell yeah.
deep because of women like this. So let me play this. Let me play her testifying. This is actually a compilation of a few clips of Travis's defense attorney cross-examining her. So now she's got to deal with Travis's lawyer, and she's asking all the great questions. And listen to the way she answers some of these questions. I think at some point she's actually lying, but here we go.
Is it true that you were the first person to become physically violent with Travis and not the other way around?
No.
Not at all?
Something or show me something if I can't recall the exact steps of the moments.
Question. Okay, so you were the first one to become physically violent with Travis, not the other way around. Answer, correct.
Yes, I said correct.
You remember that?
Yes.
So you smashed his iPhone not out of anger, but because you were hurt?
Yes.
Okay.
And I didn't send my brothers to kill him.
No, you just sent a text to go shoot up his shit, right?
I didn't say shoot him.
You sent a text to go shoot up his shit, right?
Correct.
Let's tell the jury what the shit is.
When you're angry, you say things. I'm sure everyone in this courtroom has said something when you're. I'm trying to speak. If you want me to answer your question, you have to let me answer your question.
Well, if you were responsive to my question, I wouldn't have.
All right. Answer the question, please.
Okay. Can you repeat your question?
Question was shit. What does shit mean in the context of that text?
Anything but him.
Okay. So it could have been his brother.
No.
It could have been the house.
Nothing violent toward a person.
It could have been his mother's house, right?
I was upset and my adrenaline was running and I said something that I didn't mean. That's the bottom line of that. I didn't mean for my brothers to do any of that. That's why when my brother left the house, he did not have a firearm on him. People say things when they're upset that they don't mean all the time. But since the situation has happened, it obviously blew up 20 times more. But I didn't necessarily mean for anything to happen to Travis, his family, his house, or anything. It was like my second home. I would not want anything to happen there.
All right. And he never raised a hand and touched you, did he not?
Yeah, he was raising his hand the whole time, like grabbing me, pushing me back. Yeah, the whole time.
So did he punch you?
No, he didn't punch me.
Did he slap you?
No, he didn't slap me.
Did he pick up any objects and hit you over the head with them?
No.
Why'd you want to smash his car window?
Like I said, it wasn't intentional. I was just throwing things because I was upset.
And when you were throwing things, you were also screaming things at him, like you were going to send your brother Keyshawn over to kill him, right?
Never, ever, ever said the word kill at all.
Okay, so
4 men showed up at his front door.
And you told both of them that Travis had picked you up and slammed you to the ground, right?
Yes.
And that he had disrespected you.
Yes.
And you also sent a text message to Keyshawn at roughly 9:45 that Travis dropped you to the ground. Do you remember that?
Yep.
And in response to that text message, Keyshawn sent a group text message to you and Tyler Robinson that Travis is a dead man walking. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that's the message that you deleted from your phone, right?
No, I deleted the shoot his shit up message.
And you also deleted the dead man walking message.
Oh, I'm not sure. I don't remember if I did or not.
So you really weren't making a living as a real estate agent, right?
No, but I do have a mom and she's a medical assistant, so.
Okay. And you were living with your mom.
Correct.
Right? You had a conversation with a man about marriage and you're still married to Andre Chusang. Is that correct?
Correct.
So you lied to Travis. You misled him, did you not?
Travis never asked me if I was married.
Oh my gosh, man. She is a true POS.
Yeah.
So look, Travis never slammed her to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
He never dropped her to the ground.
Right.
And unfortunately, he never asked her if you're married or got a husband.
Right.
And you know what's
Man, you didn't have a job and shit. Yeah, you wasn't in real estate, nothing. Yeah.
Nah, she's one of these Instagram chicks probably. But you know what really bothers me about her testimony is that there's no emotion. Look, Sebastian Jacques, he's dead because of her.
No doubt. Yeah.
Sebastian Jacques lost his life because of her, not because of Travis Rudolph, in my opinion. And she's not even crying or showing any emotion for the violence that she created, man.
No doubt. She just on there talking slick, you know what I mean? And what she don't know and what she don't realize is how smart these people are. You know, I've seen people get up on the witness stand and do the exact same shit she did. And these people know a lot. Their questions are coming in at a meticulous race with knowledge. You know what I mean? So the girl married, you over here at this man's house, you know what I mean, starting shit. Called your brothers, you text, you lied and say he slammed you. Man, it's just like you say, man, this girl a piece of shit. And unfortunately, her cousin lost, or her brother, I don't know what Sebastian was to her, but he lost his life, homie, over hers. And the shit is unfortunate, man. You know, and then she gets up here and still tries to, make it seem like, she didn't have, like, damn near like she ain't did nothing wrong. This is just the basis of, these men out here should see, man, that, I know that toxic coochie is hell of a, but at the same time, man, this is the shit that comes behind it, man. So, you got to be careful out there, man. You got to be careful.
Yeah, man. I can't believe the state of Florida is pursuing this as aggressively as they're pursuing it. And as we speak, his trial is going on. His trial is expected to last for the rest of the week. I want to show you this picture of Travis Rudolph when he was a senior. No, I think he was a junior at FSU. This brother noticed this autistic kid who's always sitting alone and no one pays him any attention. And this is at the height of him being a star football player at FSU. What does Travis do? He sits down and has lunch with the autistic kid. This is a picture of him from 2016, man. That tells us a little bit about his character. And then you could tell how he acted in that interview, right?
Now, I'm going to tell you where I saw his character at. When she fired on him and shit, and he done slapped the dog shit out of her. You know what I mean? See, I'm going to be honest with you. Don't hit me. You know what I mean? I would have knocked fire from her ass. You know what I mean? And she would have really had something to call her brothers about. Don't hit me. So when he refrained himself from when she swung on him, when she fired on him, he showed me a lot of character then. That's when I saw the character, Alex. You know what I mean? Not to mention, don't get me wrong, I saw the intellect in the video, the interview, and just to be honest with you, like I say, man, this kid shouldn't be in trial right now under these circumstances. I'm hoping that he get acquitted, walk away, you know what I mean, get to be able to go live his life peacefully and, just be a better judge at women on the next go round, you know what I mean? But there's some bullshit right here, man, that old girl brought about, man. And unfortunately, all these men are in a situation. They lost a cousin, a homie, and this dude fighting for his life in trial. So, man,
Yeah, this is a crazy prosecution. I agree with you that he showed so much restraint while this chick, what's her name, Dominique Jones, is closed fist hitting him because hey, dude probably had, you know what? I have no issue with him having girlfriends or he's texting chicks. This chick is married. She's a married chick getting mad at Travis because he's texting with some woman. I mean, this woman, she's an epitome of a POS.
No doubt, and unfortunately, some people can't disguise themselves and being, normal. But like you say, she broke the phone. She broke the window in the car. I mean, I didn't know females still did that type of shit. You know what I mean? So, I do have to take some, only shot I'm going to take at Mr. Rudolph is this, man. You over there, greasing her down, waxing her up. You know what I mean? You have to be in tune with these females' mind to get a full understanding of what they're capable of and what they're not capable of. Sometimes, Alex, they'll say some shit early on in a relationship, man. I don't even play with people. Just say if I was dating him, I wouldn't even, you say some funny shit out at a date. You know what I mean? And I'm listening to you and say, I stabbed his tires. I'm not going out with you no more. You know, you could be talking about a whole nother situation about something you did in the previous relationship. I'm listening to that shit. You know what I mean? So, you know, like I say, us guys got to be mindful too of the intellect, you know, that these females have, the emotional state that some of these women me into, because we had to, it was just flipped not too long ago about the dude driving from Virginia to go, you know, shoot the lady. So man, you have to be understanding of people intellect, man, and see if they even ready for the type of shit, you know, that you know, putting them through emotionally in a good way. It could be in a good way, you know, because they'll flip out on you, man, when shit don't go their way, man.
Well, I just want to warn all the men down there in Florida to stay away from this woman right here, because she's bad news. As my dad would say, she is a thorn. She will be a thorn in your side, and nothing but problems will come. I don't think she's repairable, really, because she was just so nonchalant on the stand. If she would have got emotional, if she would have showed some sensitive side, and she would have said, I really fucked this shit up, then maybe
you're right. No, I agree with you on that. You know, said I made a tragic mistake. You know what I mean? I did something that's irreparable. You know what I mean? I didn't expect it to go that way. I was 100% wrong without the intention that it'll happen like this. Nah, she didn't do none of that. She like, shit, you know, I'm gonna go kick. But man, she probably got a new motherfucker already. You know what I mean? You know, so hey man, you know, unfortunately, man, that you know, I mean, I could look at her motherfucking lips and tell somebody dating her right now. You know what I mean? Don't care about none of the toxicity or none of that. But as a grown ass man, you got to be careful who you dating, man. This dude, like I say, was an intellectual, man, and he, you know, could have been a little more choice here on who he dating, you know, because of the emotional distress and damage that some of these, not just females, that men have that help fuck up your shit. You know what I mean? You know.
Well, the last thing I want to talk about on this thing before we wrap up this episode is what does this term mean? I thought it was funny that the judge actually had to interject and say, what does the shit mean, ma'am? Just explain the shit. So if someone says, or if you find out that someone said, man, I'm about to shoot up FG shit, how do you interpret that?
I mean, basically, it's no interpretation. I mean, it's only one interpretation, but there's no explanation for it because it's a trick question. You know what I mean? And anytime she tried her best to answer it, you know, and I gave her E for effort on trying to answer that, but it just wasn't no correct answer. You said what you said. They caught you saying it. You know, you text what you text. They caught you texting it. You know, you were just guilty 100% on being wrong. You know what I mean? So, unfortunately, man, like I said, I want to go back to the kid that lost his life. You know, I'm sure he has a mother. I'm sure he may have a sister or a brother, you know, and could even have a child, you know what I mean? And going to aid in, you know, a homegirl, a cousin, or anything like that, man, cost him. On the flip side, man, you know, you got this dude, this kid, ex-NFL guy, Mr. Rudolph, fighting for his life just based on dudes came to his house, rushed him and his brother, you know, and had some pistols on him, you know, and he got off back and happened to knock one down, man. Now he fighting for his life, you know. At some point, Alex, it got to be some kind of real justice, you know, in this, you know what I mean? And the justice is basically let this kid go, you know what I mean? Let him go home and, you know, live the rest of his life, because as you can see that he's not emotionally damaged as far as, you know, ignorant. He's not, you know, he's not a criminal, you know what I mean? He's not a street dude, you know what I mean? He's a dude that got himself in a situation, man, behind a female. And unfortunately, like I say, man, somebody lost their life, man. And so I hope dude get to continue to live his. As far as she is concerned, there's many women out there like this, man. You know, you just gotta watch them, and you know, if this what you choose in your life, fine, great. But as men who got shit to lose, you don't want these type of females nowhere around you.
Well, I think that comment about the shit is very important, because that suggests she ordered her troops to go there to either shoot him or to kill him. That's the way I interpreted it, you know.
Well, I just hope the jury interpret it like that, because that's who matters right now. You know, it don't matter. The only people that matter right now is the jury. We don't know what the chemical makeup is of the jury. What county are they in? He fighting this case in?
I think it's somewhere near
Or
Tampa, wherever Tampa's
but
at.
he's down in Florida. Okay,
Yeah.
he's down in Florida. So he could have a jury that's empathetic to what happened. You could have a jury, Alex, of people, and that's all that matters right now. Don't what I think, what you think, what she thinks doesn't matter. Right now, what matters is what these 12 jurors think at this moment. And if these jurors say in their mind, hold on, if somebody comes to my house and do that exact same thing, I would do the exact same thing. If they can grasp that and run with that, not to mention, take in consideration exactly what you just said, that she sent her troops to go over here, and shoot this dude shit up, then this kid could walk away. And like I say, but even if he walk away with something lesser, I just don't want to see him get stretched out over this situation, because I don't think he was intended to, you know what I mean? Like, he didn't go knock on somebody's door and kill them. You know what I mean? So I'm really hoping that he get off on this one, man, and get to go live his life, man, and reevaluate his life, man, because I think this kid right here, deserves a second chance.
Palm Beach County is where this trial is taking place.
Okay.
And I hope the defense attorney, and some attorneys do this, they bring an expert in that understands vernacular to get there and say, what does this mean when black people say this? Because this is actually black vernacular, but you got a white defense attorney, you got a white judge questioning her about what does it mean when black folks talk like this? Because there's no other group of people in the United States that say, he's with the shit, or, he's with the bullshit, or shoot up his shit. That's a black thing. And there needs to be some sort of black expert to say, oh yeah, that means she was sending them over there to go shoot him up.
Well, you know what, Alex, I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that one. I think they understood exactly what she meant. Just to be honest with you, you know what I mean? I could tell how the lady said, no, what did you mean by shoot a shit? She wanted to answer, you know what I mean? But I believe that, even when the judge came in, describe what shit means to this, you know what I mean, situation. They know exactly what she meant, you know what I mean? And just in that particular situation, they should have experts come in and interpret, but at the same time, I felt they know exactly what she meant. I believe the jury know exactly what she meant. I believe they see a whole foul situation, but sometimes you're going to have people that's going to say, what's the law? You know what I mean? What does the law state? And hopefully they don't go with his analogy of a murder starts when self-defense ends. You know what I mean? And they go with, these dudes was assaulted, beat up at gunpoint, and they defended themselves.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out hopefully by the beginning of next week, maybe the end of this week, beginning of next week. We should have a verdict in that case. Yeah, I'm definitely voting not guilty on all charges, but I know that prosecutor is going to come in there with a hell of an argument, very strong, very passionate, and we'll just see, man. Let the people know where they could tap in with you, FG.
Hey man, tap in with me at F General 1 on Instagram, man. That's where I'm over there rocking and rolling. I see people still checking out the videos at FG Unleashed, and hey, that's where you can catch me at, man.
Street TV here, and hit me up at Alex Alonso 101. And we're on all podcast platforms, Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeart. But if you're listening to us on Apple, leave us a comment, leave us a review, leave us a rating. We'll really appreciate it. And we'll put some of these clips up on the Street TV channel for those that like to tap in with the video. And thanks for tapping in with another fire episode of Streets and Scholars.